My name is Clara Hayes, and I am 30 years old. I stood on the polished marble steps of my father's historic home in Charleston, South Carolina, clutching a basket of my handcrafted Christmas gifts. The organic soaps, hand-poured candles, and lotions, all made with ingredients from my own garden, looked painfully out of place against the backdrop of luxury cars and professionally decorated wreaths. In a few moments, my stepmother, Victoria, and her children would offer me their polite, condescending smiles. Little did they know, the company I built from this charming little hobby could buy their entire historic neighborhood without noticing the expense. For years, I have hidden my success, waiting for the right moment to see who truly valued me. As I rang the doorbell, my heart pounded, not with fear, but with anticipation. This would be the year the charade finally ended. Before I continue my story, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop your location in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to see how my family's laughter turned to stunned, desperate silence when they discovered the truth behind the very brand they idolized. For the first 12 years of my life, it was just my dad, David, and me. After my mother passed away, he was my entire world. She was the one who had taught me the art of making things by hand, infusing herbs and flowers into soaps and candles. It was our special bond. After she was gone, continuing her craft was how I kept her memory alive. My father, a kind but unassuming history professor, cherished this connection. We lived a simple, happy life, finding joy not in possessions, but in creativity and each other. That all changed when Victoria entered our lives. A wealthy widow with a sharp tongue and an obsession with social status, she swept my father off his feet. She moved into our home with her 2 children, Sophia, who was my age, and Liam, 2 years older. From day one, I was an outsider in my own home. Victoria replaced my mother's simple decor with expensive antiques and judged everything through the lens of brand names and price tags. My handmade soaps were replaced by imported French milled bars, and the scent of my lavender candles was deemed rustic and unsophisticated. My new step-siblings embodied their mother's values. Liam, already working at a high-powered investment firm, would talk endlessly about stock portfolios and capital gains, often glancing at me with pity when I spoke of my interests. Sophia, who was studying law school at an Ivy League school, was even more direct. She would call my passion for creating organic products an adorable, if unprofitable, hobby. She'd often remark how I needed to find a real career if I ever wanted to attract a suitable husband. My father, desperate to please his new wife and overwhelmed by her powerful personality, slowly began to change. He started encouraging me to focus on more practical pursuits. He suggested business school, not to empower my dream, but to replace it with one Victoria would approve of. My passion for creating was now seen as a childish phase I needed to outgrow. Every gift I made for them, a carefully crafted lotion for Victoria, a custom-scented candle for Sophia, was met with a polite but dismissive, "How creative, Clara," before being quietly tucked away in a drawer, never to be seen again. They didn't see the love and effort. They only saw what it wasn't: expensive, store-bought, and impressive to their friends.
My heart broke, but my spirit didn't. I chose my dream. I packed my bags, my recipes, and the small inventory of products I had, and moved into a tiny apartment above a garage, funded by the meager earnings from my market stall. The next few years were incredibly difficult. I worked as a waitress at night to pay the bills and spent every waking hour perfecting my formulas, building an online store, and learning about business. There were moments I almost gave up, especially when my first website crashed and I lost weeks of work, or when a batch of expensive essential oils was ruined. The breakthrough came from an unexpected place. A travel blogger with a modest following bought one of my lotions at the market before I left. A month later, she wrote a post about it, calling it the most authentic, luxurious, and beautifully scented product she'd ever used. The post went viral. My little online store was flooded with orders. I couldn't keep up. That was the birth of Aura and Elm. I used the sudden influx of cash to legally form the company, design professional packaging, and rent a small workshop. I was determined to grow, but on my own terms, maintaining the quality and authenticity that had started it all. From that one blog post, the brand grew organically. We were picked up by small boutiques, then larger ones. Soon, high-end spas and hotels were requesting exclusive lines. Aura and Elm became synonymous with understated, authentic luxury.
10 years later, I returned home for Christmas. To my family, I was still just Clara, the artistic daughter who ran a modest online business. They had no idea that Aura and Elm was mine, or that it had become a billion-dollar global brand with stores in every major city. As I sat in the lavishly decorated living room, I listened with a growing sense of irony. The entire conversation was dominated by Victoria and Sophia's obsession with a new, exclusive brand they adored. They spoke of Aura and Elm with reverence. Victoria complained about the waitlist for their new anti-aging serum. Sophia lamented that the franchise rights for Charleston were nearly impossible to secure, talking about how a single Aura and Elm store would be a goldmine and a huge status symbol. Liam agreed, noting that the company's stock was one of the most sought after on the market. They were unknowingly describing my life's work, a brand they considered the pinnacle of luxury, while I, its creator, sat right there. Then came the gift exchange. I handed them their presents, each one a product I had made myself, in packaging that was intentionally simple and rustic, reminiscent of my market stall days. The reactions were predictable. Victoria thanked me for the charming soap, but placed it aside. Liam unwrapped his candle, sniffed it, and made a joke about his apartment smelling like a hippie convention. Sophia was the most cutting. She held up the lotion I gave her and said, with a condescending laugh, that it was a sweet effort, but I really should try the products from Aura and Elm if I wanted to see what real quality felt like. That was my moment. I kept my expression calm and told them I had one more special gift for them. I reached into my bag and pulled out a beautifully designed, sleek black box embossed with the gold Aura and Elm logo. Their eyes widened in excitement. I handed the box to Victoria. She opened it with trembling hands. Inside, nestled on a bed of silk, was not a product, but a single, heavy card. It was an official letter, printed on luxurious paper stock. She began to read it aloud, her voice filled with confusion that slowly turned to disbelief. The letter was an invitation, offering the recipient the exclusive franchise rights for the first Aura and Elm flagship store in Charleston. Her voice faltered as she reached the final paragraph, which stated that the final approval would come directly from the company's founder. She looked at the bottom of the page, at the elegant, flowing signature. Her face went completely white. She looked from the letter to me, her mouth opening and closing with no sound coming out. Sophia, impatient, snatched the letter from her mother's hand. She read the final line, and her jaw dropped. She held up the letter for Liam and my father to see. There, clear as day, was my name, Clara Hayes, founder and CEO, Aura and Elm. The silence in the room was absolute. It was a silence filled with the crashing of their assumptions, the implosion of their arrogance. The brand they worshipped, the status they coveted, the wealth they dreamed of, had all been created by the girl whose passion they had mocked and whose dreams they had dismissed as worthless. The first one to speak was Sophia, her voice a choked whisper. She claimed it had to be a joke. Liam just stared, doing the frantic mental math of an investment banker who just missed the deal of a lifetime. Victoria, however, recovered the fastest, her survival instincts kicking in. Her face morphed from shock into a radiant, predatory smile. She rushed toward me, telling me she always knew I had it in me, that she was just pushing me to reach my full potential. Their sudden, transparent fawning was nauseating. They immediately began praising the handmade gifts they had just scorned. Sophia suddenly found the lotion scent incredibly complex, and Liam decided the candle would be perfect for his office.
It was a pathetic and revealing performance. I let them talk for a moment before calmly reaching out and taking the franchise offer letter back from Sophia's stunned hand. I told them that the offer was real, but it wasn't for them. I explained that I was awarding the Charleston franchise to a young woman I had been mentoring, someone who started at a market stall just like I did, someone who understood the brand's core values of authenticity, passion, and kindness. I told them they had proven tonight that they understood none of those things. I turned to my father, who had been silent, tears streaming down his face. I told him that I had always wished he had believed in me. He could only nod, finally understanding the magnitude of what he had allowed to happen. I explained to them all that I didn't come here for revenge, but for truth. The truth was, their opinion of me no longer mattered. I had built my success not in spite of their rejection, but because of it. Their mockery had fueled my determination to prove that the things they saw as worthless, creativity, passion, authenticity, were actually the most valuable assets of all. I left them there, in their silent mansion, surrounded by their expensive, meaningless things. I didn't need to shout or gloat. The quiet success of Aura and Elm, the brand they desired but could never understand, was the only statement that needed to be made. Today, my company continues to grow, and we make it a point to support small, local artisans around the world. My father and I are slowly, cautiously rebuilding our relationship based on a new foundation of honesty. He is finally proud of me, not for the money I've made, but for the woman I've become. The ultimate lesson from this journey is one my family never learned. You should never mock someone's passion. The hobby you dismiss today might just become the empire you beg for tomorrow. True luxury isn't a brand name. It's the integrity to be true to yourself, no matter who refuses to see your worth. Have you ever had a passion that others dismissed? Share your story in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more stories of justice and empowerment. Thank you for watching.